My mother, she is a ceramic pottery artist, and my father, he's a painter. So growing in such an environment with creative on daily basis regarding both of them, I think it influenced pretty much what I am today.
Welcome to Make and Decorate, a podcast for makers who love to sew, quilt, and decorate. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Make and Decorate podcast. This is episode 40, and I am Stephanie Socha. So welcome if you're new, and welcome back if you are always here listening. I really appreciate it. And today this episode publishes on December 12th, which is bringing us right in the middle of December. And has the panic set in yet for the holidays? No matter how much you think you are ahead, at least I'm going to talk for myself, but how much I think I'm ahead, then I think about everything that has still yet to be done, and it's a panic. It's crazy. It is. So anyway, I have to keep making lists and checking things off, and that's how I'm going to get through it, because it's just first of all, these days are so short because it gets dark at like 4:20 in the afternoon, but winter solstice is next Saturday. Yay! I cannot wait. Cannot wait. That is such a big mile marker for me in the year because I just need it. I need to know that the very next day we're going to have just a little bit more daylight. And every day after that, a little bit more daylight. So yeah, I'm excited about that. So, update on holiday tasks. Last weekend, I did complete some gifts. I made 4 bags. 2 of them were the bodega grocery bags, and 2 were the mesh produce bags. And these are patterns from So Sweetness, from her Minikins 2 pattern collection. So it was interesting because I haven't made this pattern yet before, and the very first one that I made, her instructions were to encase the seams so that they're finished, because it's unlined and it's made from this ripstop nylon fabric. So it's a process, and it takes a bit of time. So you have to cut down part of the seam allowance on the one side, and you wrap the other one around it, and then you top stitch it down. And it looks nice. I think it's what they call the Hong Kong seam, but it was just a little more time consuming than I wanted it to be. And hey, I have a serger, so I pulled the serger out. And the second bag, wow, that cutting the seam down, folding it over, top stitching it just added so much time. So if you have a serger and you have these patterns, try the serger out. It really saved a ton of time. It was a lot of fun. And the bag is a little bit bigger too, because you don't lose all of the inches with the cutting and wrapping and folding and top stitching. It looked really nice, and I was glad that kind of sped up the process. And in fact, I then made the produce bags on the serger as well. So speaking of my serger, the lights started blinking on it, and I started to freak out. And I'm like, what's going on with this machine? And I thought maybe it was a short in the cord where it hooks up into the machine. But then it actually ended up being just the lights. So I'm going to have to take that in have the light bulbs changed. They're LED lights. So, but anyway, quick scare, and then but the machine actually worked. It worked fine. So that's done. I've got a few other gifts that I have to make. I did get my supplies in. I ordered some embroidery threads and stabilizer for another set of gifts that I'm making that are embroidered napkins. So that is supposed to be on the to-do list for this coming weekend. There's other things too, but I'm just not going to go through the whole list right now, but I have to tell you guys, this week has been a quagmire of technology failure and just a nightmare. Yeah, it has been a technology nightmare. Mainly because my main desktop computer, my iMac, is breaking down. It's pretty much out the door. And I've talked about this before, of it being vintage. It's a late 2011 iMac. And what does that make it? 8 years old or something? Yeah, so I guess that's like ancient in computer years. But I just I'm trying to make it work until it can't work anymore. And right now it's telling me it can't work anymore. It can't. And it's because of the operating system. I mean, they get you by not supporting the hardware anymore. So they're not letting it upgrade to the operating systems. And then that's when stuff starts going wrong with all of the programs. It's like sporadically it'll connect to the internet, maybe not, or not at all. So it just needs to be replaced, and I can't replace it right now. But it's on the list. It's gonna come sometime. I was hoping to, not have to do anything with it until, like 6 months from now, but hopefully maybe within the next 3 months I'll be able to do that. But in the meantime, I do have a backup. I have my little bitty, itty bitty 13-inch MacBook Pro. So then I figured out a way to make this desktop. So a 21-inch screen is a lot better to do work on than a little tiny 13-inch screen. So I was able to make my dying desktop a display monitor hooked up to my little MacBook Pro. So that just took research and time, and I am my own IT person, which is a little scary because I know just enough to not know what I'm doing, and which requires just a lot of time to figure this stuff out. And in addition to all of this, I am learning all of this new software. The last couple of episodes have been edited and done in a different software program. And so I've been learning that. And I've been learning the new it's just there's a lot going on in technology in my life. And there's a lot of technology, just nightmares and failures going on. So anyway, all I needed to do is to get this, something working so that I could edit and publish this podcast on the day that it's supposed to publish, which is on Thursday the 12th. So if you're listening to this on Thursday the 12th, then I got everything to work. Woo, okay. So, but all of us go through this. All of us have these, we love technology, but then when it fails us, it is crippling, and that's a little scary. So that's the downside of technology. But it is pretty nice when it does work. We can do some really great things. All right, so, I want to let you guys know that my podcast is now on Pandora. So it is on all the major players, including Spotify. I know some people listen on there, and now you can listen to it on Pandora, as well as iTunes. So don't forget to rate and review on iTunes. It's very, very helpful, and I really appreciate all of the ratings and reviews. So speaking of Spotify, If any of you guys listen to Spotify, you have an account, and I have the free account. They sent an email out this week, and they called it 2019 Wrapped, and it was my year in music and how my sound changed. Well, they said my sound changed with the seasons. And in the winter, one of the top artists I listen to is Joshua Radin. And he's a favorite of mine. He's more of like a folk musician. And if you've ever seen that movie Adam, he did most of the songs on that soundtrack, and it's really pretty music. But I love his voice, and I love his music. And then moving into spring, I was listening to a little bit more classical music, so Yo-Yo Ma was kind of at the top of my playlist. And then moving into summer, I was getting more into rock, and Stevie Nicks was my top artist. I love Stevie Nicks. And she was my number one artist, and then like One Republic, and it's just fun. This whole thing was kind of fun. I saw the Spotify email and I was like almost going to delete it, but then I'm like, oh, let me see what my year in music was. And it's actually pretty interesting. And then into the fall, I got retro, and I was listening to a ton of 80s music, Toto, Madonna, U2. That was my time. Like the 80s was my high school. So that music is really like, embedded in my memories and, like for all of us. And then it said that my music borders disappear because I've listened to music from 27 countries. And I refuse to let one sound define me because I listen to all kinds of music, which is so true. So I really enjoyed that. If you listen to Spotify and if you've gotten that email but you haven't opened it yet, take a look at it because it's actually kind of fun. All right, so I just want to remind everyone about Patreon, the Make and Decorate Patreon page, and I've got a new subscriber. Thank you very much, and thanks to all of my subscribers. It's just so great, and if you can do it, that's wonderful, and it really helps with producing this podcast show. And I also have a tier on Patreon for professional companies. I named that tier In the Biz. So if you are a company that listens to this podcast that is in the sewing, quilting, crafting, decorating industry, you can join on that tier, and we can, I would definitely do a spot about like an ad. I mean, it's like a sponsorship. So you would sponsor an episode of the podcast, and let's say you're a batting company, then we would talk about your company and give you a shout out on the show, and then you would get all those bonus episodes as well. So companies, this is a way to do sponsor support for my podcast. And for the Patreon subscribers, the bonus episode is going to come out next Friday. So before I get on to my guest, this is the guest that I have been talking about, given little hints on previous episodes, and I'm really so excited for you to hear our conversation. But just before I do that, I'm just going to give you a couple more little things. I've got Netflix recommendations and a couple of YouTube recommendations, because a lot of us are going to be doing some sewing, quilting, baking, all getting preparations done for our holidays. And, we either listen to podcasts or last weekend when I was sewing those bags, I had Netflix on. And what I watched on Netflix was I like documentaries, and there's a new documentary on Netflix called Broken, and it's 4 episodes. And they have an episode on makeup, an episode on vaping, an episode on deadly furniture, and The last episode is the recycling scam, which is basically about plastics. So every one of these episodes was very interesting. I think, my favorite ones was the makeup one, because I do wear makeup, and I do watch some of these makeup influencers on YouTube, and Marlena Stell was showcased on there, and she is the owner of Makeup Geek Makeup. But you guys should take a watch on these. They're very interesting, eye-opening, and I just like to be aware. And anytime that I can get a behind the scenes look at a certain industry, I love it. I want to know. And you definitely will learn. You will learn about, if you have small children, to be careful with the furniture. And they called out a huge furniture company on this that was not being safe, and it's a big box name, so you can go watch that episode. And the makeup one was interesting, and it's kind of common sense, but just do not buy any name brand makeup or anything that's just like on the internet out there anywhere. Like, you really should just buy it from the actual source, like actual, like dealer authorized places. So, because it's pretty scary to see how close these counterfeit makeup looks. So similar to the real thing. And let me tell you, there's some gross stuff in that stuff. So anyway, all right, I got to stop talking about that. And then the YouTube one, I just discovered another new channel to me, and it's called Northern Heart. And Maria is the woman on there. She's a young woman, and she's in Sweden. And she talks about her Swedish countryside life. And it's so pretty. It's so picturesque. And she kind of educates on the Swedish lifestyle. Like, one of her episodes was called "Why Are All the Houses in Sweden Red?" And it actually was a historical reference. Really interesting, and I just like watching that. It just kind of, sort of takes you away into another world and lets you kind of, decompress, and that kind of stuff too sort of kind of rekindles my, refreshes and regenerates my creative brain. And the second thing that I've been watching recently on YouTube is this, she's called Emma, I don't know how to say her last name, Lefebvre, Lefebvre, and she's a watercolor artist, and she was making watercolor Christmas cards. So I thought it was interesting. So then I got down that rabbit hole of watching that. And I have color paint, so I pulled them out and I tried to do the snowman one, and it's not as easy as she makes it look, but even doing that was very cathartic for me. And for me, trying different arts and crafts really gets my juices and mojo going again. So that's what I've been watching on Netflix and YouTube. So let's go ahead and get into this episode. My guest is Katarina Roccella, and she is an art gallery fabric designer. She's an artist. She has a background in graphic design, photography. She takes beautiful photographs. She photographs her fabric line projects, and she's just a super talented woman, and she's very inspiring to me, and I love her work. So I'm so excited to present this to you. Katarina Roccella is an artist, and she designs fabric for Art Gallery Fabrics. She lives in Belgrade, Serbia, and she's on my show! she's on my show. Hello, Katarina. I just had to do that. I had to get that out of my system.
Hi everyone. I'm so glad to be here and so nice to be speaking with you, Stephanie, and to be able to speak with everyone else.
Yes. I'm so happy to have you on. And I'm pretty sure everybody here in America knows you and your fabrics because they're very popular. I see them all over Instagram. And so now that I have you here, I just want to start at the beginning because, as I was doing research, I realized how there is so much depth to your work because there is, and I can see that with the layering you do in your designs. So I want to hear about your artistic and creative story about growing up in Belgrade, describing your life, and you grew up in an artistic family. And I want to know how it influenced your path to the artist that you are today.
Okay, thank you so much. And it's so a pleasure to hear everything you just said about me. Mm-hmm. And yes, actually, I grew up in an artistic family. Both of my parents, they are both artists. My mother, she's a ceramic pottery artist, and my father, he's a painter. So growing in such an environment with creative on daily basis regarding both of them, I think it's influenced pretty much what I am today and what I wanted to be and to become. So being an artist is something that I think come naturally, and I cannot imagine me being anything else. So it's something that really inspires me on a daily basis, and there is always so much to explore regarding this artistic field. There are so many different materials, so many different techniques, and there is so much still to learn, especially with nowadays there are so many fields, especially where there is media and where is techniques and scientific discoveries, let's say. So it helps with many fields, giving you another opportunities and chances to explore even better or more some kind of materials and let's say artistic departments or fields.
Yeah, that's so true. And I can't imagine, but to have like parents that are in that artistic field is just amazing because your father being a painter, right? Artist. And yes. I love pottery too. So to have a mom that makes pottery is just so cool. But I could.
Yeah, no, it's kind of crazy because it's I think it's different because our house, it was like a big studio because they had many friends that came also from this artistic world, so they would gather together like almost every day, even creating with other people and chatting. So hearing about these kind of topics and being surrounded by art and going to exhibition and being surrounded with these things, I think it's pretty much something that it's very important for my work even today. So I think that I'm very happy to be grown up in such a family. Also, my sister, she's very good. She's a scenographer, so she's in a film production, and she's very good with her work. And sometimes, even before I started working with AGF, I would go and I would be helping her with some, sets and some props for the films and stuff like that. It was also very, very good and very nice, like a field of art to explore and to meet some other people and stuff like that.
Yeah, and that field too relates to a very creative environment and a whole different aspect. So it's nice to have an experience with that. And, I watched, I don't know if you're familiar with the show on PBS, Craft in America. Mm-hmm. It's been on for years. And I just watched they had a 2-episode special on, the culture and art in Mexico. And there were artists there, and there were like American artists that went down there and lived there for years. And the whole message of this episode was that there are no borders in art.
Exactly. Yeah.
And it really resonated with me. And I knew that I was talking with you today, and I was thinking about your art, and you're over halfway around the world from Art Gallery Fabrics and
Yes, that's kind
us.
of weird.
Yeah, but
Yes.
I feel
Yeah.
no borders. I feel, you know what I mean? It's just like
Yes.
creative art and artists have this just kindred connection.
Yes.
And yeah, it just,
Yeah. It's
so
amazing.
it
Yeah. And I was
is.
so happy to, during the quilt markets especially, to meet so many people from different countries. They would gather during the quilt market. And it's fantastic even to know so many illustrators from all around the world that have their own stories and their own art and influence.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, I think it's amazing that
It,
there are no borders today for these kind of things.
it is. It's fascinating. And even
Yeah.
the founders of Art Gallery, I know that they're
Yeah,
from Argentina.
exactly.
So it's just,
Yeah.
yeah, it's amazing. And I love that. And I wanted to ask you how your heritage and culture, you talked a little bit about going to the museums as you're growing up and how it really
Mhm.
was always in your life, but how it has influenced your art and your work.
Yeah, I think it is. Even sometimes when you even don't want to be influenced directly with that, it kinds of flows and sometimes goes out from different perspectives. And I remember when I was doing the second collection for our gallery fabric, which is called Recollection, I think that with this collection, my heritage was let's say, the main inspiration for the collection. And I was thinking about, what is so special with my country that maybe some other countries don't have, so that I can tell a story of that collection. So I was thinking about, there is the part of south of Serbia, which is called Pirot. It's a city, and they have those kilims that are called Pirot kilims, and they're very popular worldwide, and they're very specific, for that area. So I was kind of driven to that kind of weaving and kind of decor and let's say, I don't know how the ornamentation that is used in this kind of kilims and carpets. So I think it's very important to be aware where you're coming from and to tell a story to different people, so maybe it can inspire them as well. So I think it's very interesting. I'm always also impressed with other people's art and to know more about their cultures and their countries and what's specific regarding their art and heritage and culture.
Yeah, me too. I'm fascinated by it. I mean, you know how like people were always like, oh, if you could do anything else in the world, what would you do? And I think because I wasn't really exposed to real art until after I graduated college, because I grew up in like a very just structured.
But I don't think it's only because of the small cities and areas. I think that people, even my parents that come from this kind of background and everything, they're like, when you're thinking about art, it's not something that it's sure, let's say, or certain regarding your life, so that you have a certain position, like, I don't know, doctors or lawyers that have stability with what they do. But it's sometimes it can be shaky, it can be tricky. It also depends on how you manage and what you manage to do with your art. But I think I'm so happy that I finally found my own path, and I think that textiles, although I finished the graphic arts at the graphic department, I think that textiles is something that was always a field that I wanted to explore more. And I was always, even when I was a little girl, I always loved to doodle like dresses of the dolls and, to dress up. And also in my colleges, in my drawings, in my paintings, there were also areas of my compositions that were dedicated to textiles. So certain like decoration in them would be, they would have a lot of meaning to me because they were so, decorative.
Yeah. Yeah.
inspired with some textiles and stuff like that. So I think that I'm so happy that I finally can do what I really want to do, and
That's got to
what
be an
really
amazing
matters.
feeling. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, because and it was a whole new world to me. And fortunately, I live in a very cultural city. Or just on the outskirts of Chicago. So we have the Art
Oh,
Institute,
yeah.
which is wonderful. So I kind of like started to immerse myself and get more educated on it. And then I went back to school for interior design and really learned about like from
Yeah.
the ancient times. So
Mhm.
yeah, I mean, I would definitely choose kind of like that path for sure, which I'm kind of sort of on that again, like getting into like the quilting and
Yeah,
sewing
yeah, yeah.
industry with interior design. But yeah, I just think it's really fascinating. And I think one of the other differences with Europe and the US is
Yeah.
that the US for a long time, we're having a resurgence of it now, and I'm really happy with that, where artists are being taken more seriously as professionals.
Hmm.
And it can be a profession, but for so many
Yeah.
years, like when years I was growing up in the 80s and 90s, it was just like, no, that's
Yes.
not a real
Exactly.
job. So,
Exactly. That's what I was thinking and mean. Yeah. Exactly.
yeah,
Yeah.
but now it is. It's really, I really love the resurgence. It's almost like a renaissance here, and it makes me
Mhm.
really happy and to connect
Yes.
with artists like you. So you do have art education though too. So you, like you said,
Yes.
you had graphic design, right?
Exactly. I finished also the secondary school was the school for design. And after that, I finished the Academy of Applied Arts, the Department of Graphic Arts.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm doing my PhD on the same department, and on the same faculty. And this is something that is taking me a lot of time lately, because I'm really eager to complete it and finish, because there is an exhibition that is waiting, at the end of this process. So
Oh,
yeah, I'm so into it now, because I want to gather everything that I learned, like from paintings, from textiles to graphics, and to do some kind of installation that would show everything that I did, a little bit of it.
oh wow, that's exciting.
Yes,
Oh,
and
good.
unfortunately, I cannot show a lot of it, and I cannot do like Instagram pictures and stuff like that. So,
Right.
because until it's done, it had to be a bit in secret.
Sure,
So this is
sure.
a kind of a thing that it sometimes can be, not very good, and I don't know. I mean, sometimes taking and having secrets is not so much fun, but yeah, this is what actually, yeah, this is what occupies me lately a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So I hope that I'm going to finish it next
Oh,
year.
that's good. Oh, good, you will. Well, after you finish it and it's out there, I'm sure you'll share it with us.
Yeah, of course. Yeah,
That'll
yeah,
be really great.
of course.
Yeah, on your blog, which is like butterflies and
Like
flowers.
like flowers and
Oh,
butterflies.
like
Yeah,
flowers and butterflies.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yes, because
Uh-huh.
my blog actually started, I think, more than 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like maybe almost 15 years ago. And I had, my kids were small. So I was thinking I was doing the custom clothes for them, for
Mm-hmm.
kids. So I was thinking about the name of the brand. So I was thinking that, kids are like flowers and butterflies. They're, so special and
Yeah.
so fragile and so beautiful. So that was like,
Yeah.
the name that came to my mind. So,
I like
yeah,
it. Yeah. I mean, I
thank you.
think it's good. Because to me, it also just kind of characterizes your work, which
Yes, also
has a lot
regarding,
of flowers and butterflies and
yeah,
nature. Yeah, which I
exactly.
also love. Right.
Yeah.
And so on your blog, though, you have some different pages, and you have explored so many venues of art, painting and illustration,
Yeah.
in addition to textile design. I mean, it's really amazing, and that's when I really, you know, put it all together because uh, my very first recollection of you know discovering your art gallery collections was with Wonderland. I
Oh,
so love
yeah.
that collection. It's so one of my favorites.
Thank you.
And then since then, I've just kind of followed you and your collections, and I'm just like, there's something about this designer and before I even knew you were an artist, I'm like, it's very artistic. This is what I love about it.
Thank you.
So yeah, and then when I
Yeah.
saw your website, I was like, here it is. This is why.
Yeah, that's because I like to challenge myself. Every time
Yeah.
with each collection, I have to do something different. I have
Mm-hmm.
to impose to myself even some kind of palettes that maybe are not like my first choice or something. But I like to explore, and I think that there are no like boundaries to where something can start and finish. There is always something that you can push yourself, more
Yeah.
and do it even better. And I really like working with Pat and in our gallery fabrics. I like how she sometimes it's a process, to do a collection. So she pushes us sometimes, to do even better and more. And sometimes, I mean, speaking for myself, I even how can I say? I don't expect sometimes, the results and what I came and what I come with at the end.
Mm-hmm.
So with Wonderland, I think it was like my first collection when I did some watercolor drawings and paintings that I scanned, and and after that I developed the whole collection based on this watercolor art and artwork. So I think it's very dear to my heart as well, because I think that you can see like hand painted things and textures, and what I love the most in this field of art is the textures. And I always like to have some layers, and even if it's like just a normal blender, I like when it has this kind of, let's say, 3D effect a little bit, that it's not something just flat.
Yeah, me too. Me too. I'm always looking for that. And I noticed that the water, I love watercolor
Oh, thank
fabrics.
you. Yeah,
Because I'm really, like you said, with the technology that we
exactly.
have today, and the fact that it can be printed and it really
Yes,
does look like a watercolor art
exactly. Yeah,
is
yeah,
really
that's true.
cool and
Yeah,
amazing. And
exactly.
it was a little spin off of Alice in Wonderland, I think, too, or that's what I inferred to it, and I love Alice in Wonderland as well.
Yes,
And
yes,
the
exactly.
teacups and everything. So yeah.
Yeah, 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 yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah.
love that. So, talking about
Thank you.
graphic design,
Mhm.
how do you blend computer graphic design with traditional forms like of your painting and illustrations? I think you said by scanning, so that's what you.
Yes, exactly. Yes,
Okay.
that's where I use techniques to
Mm-hmm.
scan my art. And this is what I love the most when developing. It's hardly that I'm going to computer, because I work in the Photoshop. So it's very just a few times that I did my art and artwork directly in computer, because I just like this kind of little imperfections that
Yeah.
can be found, when you're doing something by hand.
Mm-hmm.
And even if it takes much time, because later when you scan it and you get some like dots and textures that maybe are a bit tricky to just clean.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that I always get more, even if I spend much time on cleaning them and preparing them for the finals. I think it really brings something special to the final product and to a collection. And that's how I usually do the collection. So I firstly go with the classical pen and paper.
Mm-hmm.
It's also many times I just start with inks, because I think inks and just water is my favorite medium.
Okay.
And occasionally I just, like in the Wonderland, I was doing the watercolors where there are some colors. But sometimes I just do with, just classical graphic pen. And then later when I scan it and through computer, I add some colors.
Okay.
So it depends
Yeah.
on theme, on what I want to achieve, and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But it's always fun.
Yeah. That's I gravitate towards that organic
Yes, these
style
are
of your
yes,
fabrics, and like you said, even like if it's a blender or a solid, I really love when you can have that texture infused into it.
yes.
Even though cotton is a flat fabric, you can really do a lot to convey
I agree.
texture. Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. So, and I also saw too that you this is really, to me, I think it's a little bit rare that artists also are good at art, Adobe Illustrator.
Oh yeah. No, I don't. I mean, I use Adobe Illustrator, but it's not very much because
Okay.
I think that the lines, because it's like the vector, it's different than the Photoshop. So I think in Photoshop, the kind of the textures and kind of the lines that you can achieve is much more organic, as you said.
Yeah.
While an Illustrator is a vector. It's better later for the production because sometimes with a Photoshop and those kind of lines, you cannot achieve this kind of the like small, very small and tiny lines and dots. While in Illustrator, it gives better results. But I still prefer this kind of like imperfections that I can achieve only in Photoshop. At
Okay,
least I think,
Photoshop.
yeah.
All right,
So
good.
I just work in Photoshop,
I see.
which I
Okay,
prefer.
great. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
that makes sense. Yeah, definitely. And I I can't remember. I probably told you this before we start recording, but your color palettes are exactly my color palettes. And I love that because my favorite colors are purple, aqua, and teal. And I read on
Yeah.
your blog that those are your favorite colors. And I'm like, that's another reason.
Yeah.
Like sometimes when you keep gravitating towards, a certain line of fabrics or an artist, and then,
Yes.
sometimes I wonder, I'm like, why? Why do I? And first of all, it's the color palettes
Yeah.
and the imperfections in the organic nature of your
Thank you. Yeah.
art, which I love. And I love your compositions, which are a lot of nature and flowers and butterflies and just whimsical too. I like the whimsy in it
Yeah.
as well. So
Thank you so much.
yeah,
Yes, I think the color palette can be also something that can inspire the whole collection because, for example, the line that I'm working on now is something completely different, but I get inspired with also periods. I mean, periodically I do this kind of collection where I'm inspired with some decades or some periods in art or in history. So I think it also influences what kind of the colors or shades I'm going to use in a collection. So I think it's very nice. But yes, definitely teal and purples are my favorites. I also very like black and white or this kind of graphic like grays. I think that grays are also
yes,
very
yeah,
very good for collections. But I think that people. I think that people prefer like blues instead of grays. I don't know if I got it correctly, but sometimes the last collections I think that I was using much more blue instead of grays, and I think that I would really love to do a collection that would be just black and white or maybe with some grays and stuff like that, like monochromatic one.
yeah. That would be
Which
good. Yeah, that would be
just
really
love
good.
the quilts that are so like using just a few colors or just restricted color palettes or just black and white, which is I think fantastic.
Right, which is the ultimate contrast to high low, which is
Yes.
really cool, and you can really like do a cool like pattern that emphasizes
Yes.
that contrast
Mm.
in a quilt. For
Yeah.
sure. And then even when you do the warm color palettes, because you have done collections of that, and even most recently, your rayon fabric with the red poppies. The
Oh yeah.
background is the red poppies are really warm and saturated and bright, but they're grounded
Yes.
with this cool neutral. And I love
Yes. Dark
warms with
navy.
cools. Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
Navy is one of I know, I love navy and indigo too. You can see my office, I painted it a really
Oh
dark
yeah.
navy. A dark
I love
navy,
it.
but it's in a super high gloss, so it bounces light back into
Hmm.
to the space.
Yeah.
But
I
yeah,
noticed that people really like this kind of dark blue navy. So yeah, I think it's a very good neutral as well.
it is. Yeah, I really
Yes.
love that, and because I try to get myself out of that whole, cool colors are my thing, but I
Yes.
try to get into some of these warmer color palettes, and I do love like this gold, this like, and you do that in your color palettes too, but it's just a certain type of, I think, because
Mhm.
your warm colors are not muddied, and I think that's what I like. I don't really like warm colors that have a lot of brown in them and get muddied up and stuff. So
Mhm.
those are the warm colors that I really love, and you put those in your collections. So it's
Thank you.
great. I really really like that, and your your
Yeah.
the some of your inspiration too, I think, is you have this weekend home, and and the flowers. There's poppies. You know, you have photographs of those, and other wildflowers, and you've done like promo videos from there,
Hmm.
which is beautiful. I mean,
Yeah. Thank you so much. Yeah.
just I think you draw. I can kind of gather that you draw the inspiration from that,
Yes. I
and I
think. Hmm.
see that you know you even have like photographs of flowers, and then you have your illustrations or water, or
Yeah.
paintings right next to it. And I think it's really cool.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think the nature is absolutely the best inspiration, and
Hmm.
it's always changing, and you can always, I mean, I just can't get enough of certain flowers and certain aspects of, for instance, in spring when everything is blooming, and it's something so exciting. And there is, as you said in even before when we spoke, there is a house that we have just near Belgrade, because Belgrade is a very huge city, and it gets crowded, and it gets sometimes, even the pollution, let's say, and traffic and everything. Sometimes it's just weird. So we like, when we have time, of course, during weekends, to go a little bit in nature outside in the outskirts of Belgrade. So we have this little weekend getaway house, and the nature around it's called Fruška Gora,
Hmm.
and the nature around it's really amazing. There are so many poppy. I mean, during the summer, of course, poppy fields that are so stunning, and also other flowers. And also my mother, she's an avid gardener, and she always likes to plant so many different flowers. And there is also a print in the my lavish collection that I named Mom's Garden.
Oh,
So just had to photograph that place and her garden during summer, with many roses and different kind of daisies and small flowers that I don't even know the names.
hmm.
So it was really, really something that had to be showed in a collection. So I
Yeah.
really,
Yeah, and one of the photos you took of your mother's garden is so beautiful because it's more like a real natural wildflower garden instead of like a very
yes,
sharply curated, you
exactly.
know. And I love that. I love
Yeah,
it so much. I'm going to
yes,
do
because
that actually in my backyard garden next year. Uh,
there are so many, let's say, weeds that are so beautiful, like
yeah.
flowers and different plants that really grow like by themselves. Even poppies, some wild poppies, it's amazing how they grow by nobody's planting them actually. And I'm so
Yeah.
impressed with, but every year there is like a second spot with poppies in our garden or in
Huh.
the nearby fields. Yeah.
Right, right. And and the flowers in her garden I notice are just because it's more like a wildflower thing, the there's like this backdrop of like the different shades of green of the
Yeah.
foliage, and then these flowers just pop. It's just it reminds me of like that Gaverny garden of Monet's,
Oh,
isn't it?
thanks.
It does. That's what
Yeah.
I love it. I just
Yes,
I love.
she's doing her best. I mean, not all the time she succeeds. She succeed with all the plants and stuff that she liked to plant and to grow. But sometimes it's really amazing how nature itself really behaves and awards you with so many beautiful things that you cannot imagine. So
Hmm.
yeah, I'm so happy to be able to enjoy these flowers every season. I mean, every season has their own flowers
Yeah,
and
yeah. I enjoy the seasonal flowers here too, and just vegetables and everything. I just like, we're kind of in this day and age where you can get these vegetables and fruits all year round, but it's not the
mm,
same. So
exactly.
I really, at first I was excited. I'm like, oh, we can get strawberries in December, but
Yes.
they don't taste like the
No, you
strawberries in
don't.
June. So
No.
now I try to
So,
really like shop seasonally like it
mm,
was the old days because it's so
yes.
much better. And yeah, I think I appreciate that more when, like
Me too.
it's cherry season, here. So you just do everything cherries and, the
Yeah.
next late summer, it's peach season. So I love it. And
Yes.
and you use that a lot too in your photos and stuff. I think you had like your daughter was
Yes.
picking cherries, and there was one photo with the raspberry bushes, and I
Yeah,
love,
exactly.
yes, 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 I
Yeah,
love it.
we are so lucky to have so many because that area actually it's very, let's say, popular with so many different fruits, and we have really so many different kinds, and it's everything. I mean, we didn't plant it; it just maybe recently just a few more, let's say, apples or pears or something like that.
Really?
But yeah, but it actually
Oh,
everything was already there, so it's amazing. There is one apricot tree that is, I think, even 100 years old. It's amazingly tall, and it's even started a little bit to dry because I think it's so old. But
mm-hmm.
it gives you so many amazing apricots, and I really love that.
That
Yeah,
is amazing. Oh, I am just a little bit jealous of that, but I also love it. It's
yeah,
so amazing that it's just there for you, and that area is so beautiful.
it
And
is.
I know you love your summers too because you post about your summer vacations, and I don't know if these are like local beaches to around where you're at, or if you travel, but the beaches are gorgeous out there. They're just like
Yeah.
amazing.
Yes, I think that because when I was little, we were going to the Croatian coast, and that's where
Hmm.
my mother eventually even grew up. So I think that Croatia's country and the beaches in Croatia are so like not touched. Let's say they're not very trafficked and very
Developed.
civilized. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's not like a cafe or a restaurant on every beach, like maybe in Greece or some other parts of some other countries, like in Italy maybe. So what I like is this kind of wild, natural, coast and beauty and sea.
Yeah.
And when we choose the places to go, for the summer holidays, I like to go to the places that are, let's say, untouched, or even if there are maybe some popular beaches and places, we always like to explore, some parts of the country or island, or depending where we are going, that is a little bit more natural regarding beauty and
Hmm.
landscape and everything. And fortunately, in Croatia and in Greece and in Italy, you can always, find these kind of
Mm,
spots that are so beautiful.
they
So I
are
really, yeah,
so gorgeous.
the
And
photograph. Mm,
it's okay. So Croatia, because I used to work with a woman who is from Croatia, and she would show me photographs of those same type of
yes,
beaches, and they were the most beautiful like
yeah,
things I have ever seen.
yes,
Maybe one day I can
it
see it
really.
in person, but it was just
You
amazing.
have to.
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. And I like that too because even I love going to Northern California, and Northern California kind of has that sort of untouched
Hmm.
along the coastline.
Yes.
And
Hmm.
we stayed at this place called Shelter Cove, which is it's amazing because you go through these real tall redwood trees, and
Hmm.
then there's mountains, and then there's the
Hmm.
coastline,
Oh,
and
yeah,
then there's this one place that has a black sand beach, and it was just all rough, rugged, and not really developed, and we loved it. It was just like,
beautiful.
you know, you,
Yeah,
yeah, it's so beautiful, and I'm kind of like that anyway because I don't like crowds, and
yeah,
I'm
me
kind,
neither.
I'm
Yeah.
kind of a recluse anyway, but but I do enjoy that, and I find a ton of inspiration from even going to those places. So, and
Yes.
I love seeing your photographs, and
Thank you.
your photographs are really beautiful. And I
Thanks.
guess maybe did you learn that from working with your sister, or
No,
are
I
you
had I
just?
had studied because during the my faculty we had, because in the graphic department there is like also photography, like an
Oh,
department for itself. So the one that I was going to, it's more for illustration and for printing. but you could go also to the photography department. So we had to study for 1 year at least photography classes.
Oh, wow.
So this is where eventually, but that days, because it was like at the end of last century, which, sounds a bit weird, but we were learning about, developing the films, the classical ones, the rolls and those kind of, but the composition was like one of the first lessons that you would learn. So you would have like a still life, you would have to do the composition and then to photograph it using different lights and lighting. So I think that the composition, I mean, for all kind of arts, especially the visual arts, is like the most important thing. Yeah. And I think that I learned a lot during these days. And even in my secondary school, we also had photography. So it was like the basic things and stuff, but actually you really learn something.
That is a great skill to have. I'm not the best photographer, but I was noticing that just even your vacation photos, these are like professional photos. So I had to ask you about that because they're just amazing. And do you even photograph your art gallery?
Yes, I really like to. When I do a quilt or when I have to do a quilt, first thing that I like to imagine, it's like, the backdrop or, the surrounding of the quilt, because there are so many beautiful locations here that, there are some kind of really old buildings or walls, something that can be really good contrast to something that is like whimsical in design. So I really like that. And I really like to photograph my products, let's say, and my
yeah, they're beautiful. I love it. Oh, that's so interesting. Yeah. Cool. Yeah, they're really pretty. I like to take some tips. Yeah,
I really enjoy.
Yeah.
All of the technology, I think today is really, so good, and so that's. I mean, basically, everyone can be a good photographer with a good equipment. So I think it's something that nowadays is much different than before.
Oh yeah, because before everything is so manual and it's hard to learn. I mean,
exactly. Yeah.
I took when this was like maybe 7-8 years ago, or maybe even 10 years ago, where we got our first DSLR camera, my husband and I, and we took a class, and he was talking about all that manual stuff. Yeah, with the aperture and all that. And then
a nightmare.
In a couple of months, we forgot everything. So that photographer came back to town a couple years later, and we took the same class again.
Yeah, you have to practice. I think it's even like language. If you don't speak the language, you forgot. So I think it's those kind of skills as well.
Yeah. It's a whole different thing. But let's talk about your sewing and quilting. So you said earlier that you first were sewing, for your kids and a kids clothing line.
Yes.
And growing up, in an artistic family, was there any sewing at all? How soon did you learn how to sew?
No, actually, in my family, I had the two, it was my two aunts, let's say, that were sewing. So that was the only sewing in my family. But my mother, she got a sewing machine, which was like broken. So every time that I wanted to eventually to learn something, it just didn't work. Or if it was working, it was like so, messy, and everything seemed so complicated. So I was actually, I had my first daughter. It was like 18 years ago. I cannot imagine it. Yeah, but it was 18 years ago. And I actually couldn't go to my studio to do the printing process because it was involving so many acids and, different kind of chemicals that were like hurting me regarding, because I was also pregnant before and after I was nursing her and everything. So I just didn't feel it was right, regarding this, let's say, lifestyle.
Right.
So I wanted to do something that is like more quiet, let's say, that I can do from home and in home. So actually, I took that sewing machine from my mom to a repair service, and they repaired it. And I cannot believe, like, the first time when I sat down and it was like sewing regularly with all the stitches. I mean, it could do only the straight stitch and the zigzag stitch, but that was all. But it felt amazing,
That's all
really.
kind of you mostly need for, like, I would
Yes,
say,
exactly.
what, 90% of the sewing?
Yes. Yeah, I know. Yeah, exactly. So then I started buying some Burda magazine, because that was the only magazine that we could have in our country. And I was challenging also myself with some kind of patterns to see if I can do that, if it's something difficult or not so much. And then I realized it's not really so difficult. It just takes a little bit of time, and experience is also so much in sewing. So I started sewing some basic clothes and stuff, and then I realized that it's something that I can really do, maybe even for life, because I started to spend so much money buying fabrics from US and from
Right.
everywhere, because the patterns and the colors. And I remember that at that period it was Amy Butler, she was very popular, because she was maybe the only one doing this kind of modern
Right.
fabrics. At least, I mean, that's the first one that
No, that's true. I think that she is the first one. She's kind of like that pioneer of modern fabric
yeah.
design.
Yeah. So I started spending so much time on these beautiful fabrics that I was thinking that maybe I can do something that I can sell. So those money I can spend then, on fabrics without feeling guilty. Yeah. And that's how I started, So there were, at that period, there were so many eBay groups, because Etsy didn't appeared at these days yet. So there were so many eBay groups, there were women that were gathered in these groups with the interest. So sewing was one of them. So we had like lunches. I don't remember if it like one lunch or two lunch a month or something like that. So we would have like a team for a lunch. Like, let's say it would be inspired even or by the fabric collection or by some kind of the event or I don't know holiday, like I don't know, Christmas or Halloween or theme like that. So every one of us, we would usually be like 10 maybe in a group, would have their vision of a team through an outfit. I mean, there were different even ladies that were sewing different kind of things, like maybe some for the boys, some for the girls, and some were doing accessories like hair accessories and stuff like that. So it was very nice, to do this kind of different launches and teams and to learn more about some.
It's almost like a cooperative. And,
yes, exactly.
Yeah, and you learn from each other. That's really interesting. I like that.
And I always felt so, terrible because usually they were all of them were from US. So they would be sending actually, via post some items to photograph. So maybe the designer that was doing, jewelry or bows or something for the hair would be sending this to a lady that was sewing an outfit. So she would photograph everything. And it was so easy, living in one territory, let's say. And for me, it would be, so much time and I couldn't enjoy this kind of collaboration, at that time. But I think, now with different kind of even post, expedited things and stuff, I think it's different nowadays well.
It's so different.
Yeah. But I so enjoy meeting so many different and beautiful women and inspiring artists, doing different kind of techniques and crafts.
Yeah. I think that enriches anyone's life and creativity in their craft or sewing or whatever. I love getting together with other people who sew, and that's why we have quilt guilds here too. I mean, they just need that interaction with each other, and it's nice to have that relationship with other people that love the same thing you do, because not every person in your daily life does that, and they don't understand the joy that you get from it. And the fulfillment. So, that's really good. So you started off with that.
Yes, and I also remember that that was also the first time that I had to experience some blogging and some language, like, online, and some HTML, because we had to write the codes and do the templates, for this kind of launches. But it was so fun, because I think otherwise I would never learn that, but it was really great, to share some experiences and, many things that I learned from them. And I still have some of these people and ladies, as friends.
Oh, nice.
So it's very, very good.
Oh, yeah.
And I said, because before you were talking about blogging, and it was a period when people would usually use, blogs for this kind of interaction with other people, showing what they do. What they achieved and this and that. And nowadays, I think with the Instagram and Facebook, I think blogging is a little bit postponed, or maybe not so, in use anymore. And even me, I feel so lame when I have to go to blog and log in and, think about what I'm going to, say, and to do, to attach pictures and everything. So I think
but your blog posts are, I mean, even if you don't blog let's say you do a blog post once a quarter even, I love that, because you're not just saying, oh, blah, 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 done. You're telling a story, and you have these beautiful photographs to, show what you're talking about. Just like that one in August with the dress that you designed with the fabric. Yeah. So you're still, I mean, to me, seeing that fabric, that dress design that you did, for the listeners, go check out her blog post, and I will put a link. Yeah. But yeah, it looks pretty easy, but it's so elegant, and it showcases your rayon fabric perfectly. True. So it also kind of is a selling tool for the fabric, because sometimes people can't visualize what to make with that fabric. And then when you see it in a beautiful dress, then they're like, whoa, I love that fabric now. You know what I mean? So I think it helps a lot.
It helps a lot. I think it's very important. And I really like that with our gallery fabrics that they're doing, and they're providing the lookbooks for every collection that they do. So makers and other people that maybe want to do something but don't have, an accurate idea about what is going to be. So I think it gives a really good inspiration, let's say, for eventual ideas and makes.
It does. I love the art gallery lookbooks. I'm on their email list, so I'm like on top of it with them.
Yeah, they're really doing it nicely.
Yeah.
So good.
And I mean, there's other fabric companies I love out there too, but this art gallery just does it in a different way that I love, and it's for me. So, yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, and I know Instagram, but it's gotten so commercial too, and
that's just what I wanted to say.
Yeah, and I think that it really doesn't take the place of a really good blog post that tells a story and is personal and
that's true.
Makes that direct relationship.
I feel the same way, and that's why lately I'm not so very, present on Instagram, because I feel every time when I go to Instagram, there is so many advertising, marketing things, objects and photos that I'm not interested in seeing.
Right.
And, to arrive to what you want to see, it takes time. So it arrives like you're spending so much time on a telephone looking and watching on things that you even are not interested in seeing, and it kind of gets bored. So I don't know if that maybe has to do with followers or activity or something, but for me sometimes it's very stressful.
I agree. And I do the same thing. I kind of am not. I know they say you're supposed to post so many times and at certain times of the day, and all. I just don't even follow any of that. And
me neither.
If I have something to say or show, then I do it. And I'm not so hungry for like 10,000 plus followers, although I guess you're supposed to be, because then then I would get sponsors for my podcast. But I also heard recently that Instagram might do away
Yeah,
with likes because they want to bring it back to what it was intended for and how it was used originally for artists and creators.
Yes, I hope so.
So I hope so too. I'm wondering about that. I'm gonna see if they actually do that because
Yeah, exactly.
I think that would be a good thing. Yeah.
Yes, I think so as
Yeah.
well. Yeah. Because I think now it really lose what it was at the beginning, because it was really something different. And I rather go to Pinterest nowadays, to look and to search for something that I'm really interested in seeing and
Right.
and
Yeah.
what I want to see. Yeah. So
Yeah, definitely.
well, let's see.
Yeah, for sure. And so then did you started quilting when you started to design fabrics for art gallery?
Yes.
So, and you started designing fabrics, 2014? Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
Actually, I started a little bit before because I was on a Spoonflower.
Oh, yes.
And I had a few. I mean, actually, yesterday I went there because they're having some promotion for everything. So I went to check because I'm selling wallpapers on Spoonflower.
We're going to talk about that. Yeah.
So I realized that I have like 1,000 designs
Yeah.
uploaded to Spoonflower, which is really a lot. Yeah, I went and I was there present for, let's say, maybe 3 years before having a deal with Art Gallery Fabrics. And I also really, really like the community behind Spoonflower. There are so many beautiful and interesting designers and illustrators and artists. And there are, some Flickr groups where they discuss and share some different kind of aspects and problems and, techniques and everything. So I think it's really, really good, even for people that are interested to start, having some kind of skills or just to start with maybe textile designs. I think it's a great way to learn more because they offering you the software is working, like you can see your design working in different kind of repeats.
Yeah.
So I think it's very nice to start, to start learning about that as well, about the scaling, and to do the collections that have a little bit of everything regarding main fabrics and main prints, and also some kind of blenders, and to tell a story also through a collection. And yes, I started working with Art Gallery Fabrics in 2013, but in 14, my first collection went out. It was indelible. And I was really, out of the moon. I'm still am happy, to work with them. And they're really so good. And they're real family, behind, everything. And they're very supportive, and I really feel so blessed to be one of their artists.
Oh, good.
So I actually, when I had my first collection, I mean, I tried to do some kind of quilts and quilting even before, but it was more like visual, because I would see something like a picture of the block and something. So I thought in my head that it's something easy, like it's just, straight lines and cutting and, piecing. So it's not a big deal. But then I realized it takes really a lot, to learn how to do it properly, about everything that can even help you, to do it correctly without skewing and having something mismatched and, chaotic, my quilts at the beginning. And I remember also when I did my first quilt for the quilt market with the indelible collection, it was done with the serger.
Oh, wow.
Yes, because of course I love serger because it really, saves you a lot of time,
Me
regarding
too. Yeah, I love my serger.
Yeah, so I wasn't thinking that there is even another dimension regarding the seam allowances and ironing and pressing the fabrics after you actually piece them. So I did everything with the serger, and it was also noticeable because the quilt was done with the whole square triangles, which were 2 inches. So they were really, really tiny. Yeah, little. So in a complete mass of little triangles, you would see that there were some kind of imperfections regarding the quilting and quilts and everything that I wanted to manage just with how I thought that I'm going to, to do without any real experience. And then the first quilt market, really, it was such a good and great experience. And even seeing all the quilts, especially those professional and done in the like exhibition area, they were like something that completely blew my mind. It was another field of art that I really didn't imagine it even existed.
It really is. Yeah. It's
Amazing.
amazing. Yeah, because
Yeah.
I came to quilting really almost around the time of you. I think I took my first quilt class in 2010, but I really didn't put it to use and practice until right around 2014 as to like completing quilts because I would make some tops, but the class that I took didn't do the whole thing. They just did the top. So I'm like, well, how do I finish this?
What
And
now?
then I was intimidated to quilt it. And so finally I just did it. I mean, it's just because I had an issue of being a perfectionist and that's a bad thing. So quilting has actually taught me. You would think that it would teach you to be a perfectionist, and it can, the old school type of way. But that's what I love about the modern quilting because you just, it doesn't have to be perfect, and finished is better than perfection, which is not going to get finished, right? And so with every quilt, you learn more, and your skills just improve that much more. So, yeah, that's good. Do you still do your quilts for your fabric lines and stuff? I like that because I think it puts a real personal touch to your collections.
I think so. Yeah, everyone that is designing for Argali Fabrics has to do their own design for the like free quilt pattern.
Okay.
That goes with every collection. And I think it's always, something I like to be challenged also to do something that is like not traditional, that is modern, but that is different, with regarding theme of the fabric collection. And I also try to push myself to do something that is more, that is even not just basic piecing and or even that is basic piecing, but then there is some kind of the idea regarding color or shading or, gradient or value effects or something like that.
Yeah. Two quilts of yours come to mind about that. The one you do like kind of like this pixelated, one is a flower, like a flower, like the red, right? Am I thinking of the right thing?
There is a big rose, the pixelated.
Big rose, yes. Yeah.
Yes.
That one.
Yeah.
And then the other one that you made, I think it was for your son with the kind of like the deer head.
The deer head.
And that was pixelated too, right?
Yes.
Yeah, it's really interesting. But they're all
Mm-hmm.
squares, but they create this composition that is like outstanding. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Like, that's what people love.
Thank you so much.
They love to like be able to, not to be to look a lot more complicated than it really was. And that's what that does. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I think that the one that I did for my recent and upcoming collection that is coming out in December, it's Earthen. It's a little bit, it's simple, I'd say, but it's a little bit more complicated because it actually involves some kind of the strip piecing and cutting. And there are like shapes of the mountains, so they are basically triangles, but when you assemble the peaks and little pieces, you already have, done like halfway regarding some piecing. And I think it's going to be very interesting, to see what people are going to think about that. If it's going to be something that it will look like not so basic and not so difficult. Or it's because I think that's everything that I did is very like simple regarding, quilting, but with, the combinations of colors, maybe you achieve some good, let's say, effects and results. Yeah. So I'm so curious to find out.
And let's talk about Earthen. It's so we're recording this earlier, but it'll go up probably around early December. And December is the time that this collection is going to be released. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah. And it's called Earthen. So, go ahead. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No. It's okay. It's good. No, so it comes out in December, and it's a collection that is inspired with, let's say, winter, with also some woodland. It's the woodland theme, let's say, as main, and it's the first collection actually it's not the first, it's the second, because we had the 20 prints before, and now we are 16 per collection regarding the designs. So it was a little bit, like, let's say, tough to do a collection that can tell, let's say, entire story, because it's inspired with earth, with Mother Earth, and all the beauties and textures, like, ground and stuff like that, that comes from the Mother Earth. So, as I said, it was a little bit difficult to tell a story through only 16 prints, but I think that I have a good amount of let's say, low valued prints, and those that are like more darker and medium ones. So I think that I can tell a good story even through a quilt regarding those shades. And I was working just yesterday on my second pattern for this collection, and I think it's a very nice one, and I'm so curious also, to have it, because my rolls are still not in. I have only strike offs, and I cannot wait for the whole collection to arrive so that I can start sewing with it.
Yeah, Art Gallery sent out like just kind of like a real, sort of like a sneak peek and kind of see what the different patterns are, and it looks really nice. And that is going into like more of the earth tone colors, and like there's a pretty sort of like a deep gold. There's a pattern I really love. It's on a light background, and you've got like two tones of like the, I don't know, burnt orange and gold and maybe brown, but it's like leafy.
Yes, it's like a lunaria, I think.
Yes, that's it.
That is,
yes, lunaria.
The plants.
And I see that fabric, and I think that would make absolutely gorgeous drapery panels.
Thank you.
I mean, this is kind of like my wish list, I would say, of like that. I don't know if I know it's hard for like a quilt fabric company to go into like home dec, but because I'm an interior decorator, whatever. And if they would just make like, how they just make a couple of rayons fabric, a couple of patterns into a rayon. If they would make a couple of those also in home dec width, 54-inch wide, so that people can make draperies and shower curtains and Roman shades. With some of your statement prints. And that one would be a perfect one to do in a 54-inch wide.
Yeah,
and secondary is, maybe I should work for Art Gallery, but
maybe you should. I think that's,
secondary, is to do, if they would do a linen cotton blend with this home dec fabric. The texture, right?
I know.
All
right. I asked for that actually. Yeah.
Oh, you did?
Yes, like, I don't know, there is a print in my Blight collection that is actually on linen cotton fabric. It's printed on that. And I was hoping that maybe I could have something like that with this collection, but they're saying that maybe, in the future there's going to be something like that. So I don't know. I'm hoping as well, because that's my favorite one. Yeah, I like the texture. I mean, they have the canvas. I don't know if you have tried their canvas. It's also so good. It's very drapey.
Yeah, I should try it. Yeah. I've only tried the rayon knit. I have your knit. I have to make it. It's all pre-washed, and I serged the edges. It's from it's that lavender background, and you have a white like line drawing pattern with the butterflies are in color. Was it?
The grid.
Pixel fly in lavender.
Pixelated garden or Eden or something.
Yes,
I'm not sure about the names of my friends, because I'm not always the one that actually names.
Yeah.
Sometimes, there is a girl that is so creative with the names, and she's always, doing something that is so like out of the world. And for me, it's like I have to search in the vocabulary. What is it? What does it mean? So it's really great how she comes with certain names.
I see. Yeah. It's really pretty, but I love that knit fabric. And I'm making a pair of pajamas, like the actual, like the top with the long sleeves and the pants. So I can't. I mean, their knit is so beautiful. That's why I like about their fabrics too. The substrate is just, their cotton is almost like a sateen, which I love. and the knit is really soft and just very good quality. But anyway, with I have to try the canvas, but I hope that they do the linen cotton home deck size.
Yeah. I hope so too.
Because I think that would be good. And a lot of quilters and the rayon are for, people who sew clothes too. So, I mean, they have kind of like encapsulated a market that kind of does a little bit of everything. I mean, that's what I do. Yeah. I sew a little bit of everything. But quilting being a big emphasis in I mean, it's sort of, quilting has kind of taken over, I think, for you too.
Yeah, exactly.
It's taken over most of it.
The only thing that they're actually doing besides sewing. Sometimes I sew the costume because my kids, they're into Latin dancing, so sometimes I just sew the costumes for them.
Oh, wow.
Competitions and stuff like that. But basically I'm into quilts, and I'm always so glad to learn even more regarding quilts and quilting.
I know there's so much. There's so much to learn. So many different types of techniques. I'm with you on that. It's like an endless possibility. I just don't even think in my lifetime I could make everything that I want to make with quilting. So, so let's just talk about any other. You have Earthen coming out in December by Art Gallery Fabrics. And we talked a little bit about Spoonflower. And so now that you're a designer for Art Gallery, you don't have fabrics up on Spoonflower, but you have wallpaper.
Exactly.
And
my
like almost 1,000 patterns of
wallpaper.
It's amazing. I didn't even know that was on there. So everybody listening, go to Spoonflower. I'll put the link. I'm going to put the link in the show notes. But it's really nice. I love, you have graphics, you have everything. It's really nice. So and wallpaper is big again. So a lot of people are doing it. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
When I went last time in Portland for my quilt show, it was for the Decadence collection. I tested actually for the first time the wallpaper because I ordered it from Spoonflower. So I did just one wall covered with that wallpaper, and it was really amazing. I was so surprised with how easy it would, just with a bit of water and sponge that I had, it would adhere so nicely, and even you can replace it and put it even better together if you're not like certain of how it goes, at the first touch. So it's really something that I think everyone can do, and I think. Yeah, they occasionally even offering some kind of discounts, and now, for instance, they're offering some free shipping and stuff like that. So I think it's a good way to decorate and to change a little corners or areas of house or
it's true. Yeah, I think it could dramatically change the look of a room, just like throwing a couple of new pillows in there can do too. And it's like
exactly.
Yeah. Oh, good. So everybody check out her wallpaper. And
thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming on the show. I really so appreciate it, and so grateful that I got a chance to talk with you.
No, thank you. I'm so grateful to you because I really love this opportunity, and even to meet you and to chat with you. And it's really
it's been great. Okay. Well, we'll do it again when you have more collections coming out.
Of course.
All right. Thanks.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well, I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I wish all of you the most happy and wonderful holiday season and the end of 2019. I will be back in the new year of 2020. I feel like Barbara Walters. 2020. All right. See you next time. Thanks for listening to the Make and Decorate podcast. The podcast is produced, recorded, and edited by Stephanie Socha. Until next time, have a great day. Bye.